The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of ParaX, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
It's coming.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you. It's daunting me. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghosts of you and me. Of you and me. All these whispers.
My name is James Hershey. Right back.
All these shadows in my mind. With my reflections I can't find. It's just the ghosts of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the
That ought to
ghosts
do
of
it.
you and me. Of you and me. Don't let them take you away. Don't let them bring you down inside. It's just the mirrors in your mind. Don't let them bring you down.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, Old Boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
How is everybody doing tonight? I'm good, brother.
I would like to start off tonight's episode by reading an email that I received from a listener. So I'm going to read that now. Dear Mr. Hershey, my name is Thomas, and I enjoy listening to your show. I would like to say before I ask my question that I mean no disrespect by this question. I wanted to add that because, to tell you the truth, you guys kind of scare me, LOL. My question is, do you actually believe in the things that you talk about on the show? Or is it all just for entertainment purposes? Are you both just playing characters on the show, or is this stuff real? I guess what I'm asking is, does the paranormal actually exist, or is it just make-believe to entertain and scare people? I hope that you will answer my question on the show someday. I get the feeling that neither of you are afraid to answer questions that aren't praising you. Thank you, and I will be looking forward to your answer. Thomas. And Thomas is from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that is the email that I received. Okay, first of all, Thomas, you are 100% correct in saying that neither of us are afraid to answer any kind of questions. The answer to your question is quite simply, what you see is what you get with us. I am in no way playing a character on the air. The only difference between me in everyday life and me on the show is that I have to be very careful about the language that I use while I'm doing the show. We're on a bunch of different affiliates in a bunch of different countries. So basically, we have decided that we need to follow the FCC regulations and not say certain words. So in other words, that means no cussing. So in real life, we cuss a little bit more than we do on the show. That's the only real difference. Other than that, we are exactly the same people that you hear every week when you listen. Okay, now I've answered that part of your letter. I would like to focus on the larger question that you asked. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that the topic of tonight's episode. Does the paranormal actually exist? First of all, we need to define the paranormal. So I think that everyone can agree that the paranormal is anything that is out of the mainstream understanding of what is real or beyond the understanding of science as a whole. That seems fair. This would include a whole lot of different things, from ghosts to demons. It even covers cryptozoological creatures, which are not supernatural, but they are unknown to science. There are many other phenomenon and creatures, both natural and supernatural, that would fall into the category of paranormal as well. To make things easier, I'm going to stick with what I believe the spirit of your question was, and that is the ghosts and goblins and things that go bump in the night. The best way to undertake answering this question would be to make a list of all those arguments that people that do not believe in the paranormal use to try and make those that work in or believe in the paranormal feel foolish. So tonight I will list some of the most popular arguments that the skeptics make, and I will tackle them one by one. The first, and I think by far the most popular argument that the skeptics make, is that paranormal thing X, okay, whether that is ghost or Bigfoot or whatever, doesn't exist because I've never seen it. The seed of logic here that these people are attempting to plant in your mind is that because they can't or they have not seen something, that means that it does not exist. This argument is, on its face, patently false. We cannot see bacteria with the naked eye, but we know that they exist. We cannot see radiation, but there's no doubt that it exists. Even the very air that we breathe every single second of every single day, and that we rely on for our very lives, cannot be seen. But yet we know that it's real. We do, however, have literally millions of eyewitness accounts of paranormal activity, from ghost encounters to sightings of Bigfoot and Nessie. And these sightings are by a lot of different kinds of people. You have respected people like police officers, pilots, judges, military personnel, just to name a few, that have had paranormal encounters. The next argument that you will get primarily comes from religious people, usually Christians. This argument states that since these people believe in God, anything paranormal is make-believe and evil. This argument is also false, and it's very, very easy to disprove. The Bible itself tells you not to consort with witches or to commune with the dead. Right here you have the Bible proving the existence of witchcraft, and therefore magic, and the existence of ghosts. If these things did not exist, then God certainly wouldn't waste his time warning you not to consort with them. And as far as these things being evil, well, there's no doubt that some of them absolutely are evil, okay? Demons do exist, and they are about as evil as anything out there. But not everything that is paranormal is evil. Cryptozoological creatures, such as Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster, they are not supernatural creatures. They are wholly and completely biological, and they're just undiscovered. So you could not possibly put them in the category of an evil creature. Psychics are given their gifts by God, so how could they be inherently evil? See, these are natural gifts. They are born with these gifts. They didn't make a deal to get them. They didn't have to go and learn how to become a psychic. They're just naturally gifted with these abilities. And God is the one that created all people. So how can this be evil? Now, if they choose to use their gifts for evil purposes, well, in that case, it would be the person that was doing evil, not the gifts themselves that are evil, because you can use those gifts for good. Genesis chapter 6 says there were giants on the earth in those days. Okay, here we have the Bible proving the existence of giants. So you don't get much more paranormal than giants, witches, and ghosts. Okay, I myself am a man of God. And I get this argument all the time from other Christians. The basic insinuation here is that because I believe in the paranormal and I work in this field, that somehow that is a stain on me, or that I am somehow less of a Christian because of it. I would just remind my Christian brothers and sisters of the words of Jesus when he was asked what we need to do to get to heaven. Love God with all of your heart and your neighbor as yourself. We as Christians are no better than those whom you choose to judge. The only difference between me and a pagan is that I am saved from an eternity in hell by the grace and sacrifice of our Savior Jesus Christ. It is not because I am somehow special or deserving of salvation, and neither are you. We are all just sinners. We are no better than anyone else. We are just forgiven. That's the only difference, guys. Remember, judge not, lest ye be judged. Love. That is all we are called to do. Love one another. The next argument that skeptics love to use is that if any of these things exist, we would have proof by now. The fallacy in this argument is that the skeptics will dismiss any evidence that you attempt to show them as fake. We literally have millions of EVPs. And for those that don't know, an EVP stands for electronic voice phenomenon. It is actual audio recordings of ghosts. We have plaster of Paris casts of Sasquatch footprints. And these casts contain dermal ridges, which have been studied and authenticated by the leading experts in primate footprints in at least 2 countries, the United States and England. There are countless photographs and video evidence of multiple different creatures. The problem here is not a lack of evidence, like they would have you believe. The problem is that the so-called scientists are not willing to actually study the evidence. In science, you do not enter into an investigation or an experiment with a predetermined outcome. You can have a hypothesis, but then you must test that hypothesis, and you must go where the facts lead you. Anyone who attempts to do real scientific studies of any of this phenomenon is ridiculed and shunned because it does not fit into the accepted view of what reality is. Well, I would urge you all to remember that it was once the accepted view that the earth was flat, and that anyone who believed otherwise was crazy, or they were worse, in league with the devil. It was once believed that the way to cure disease was to slice open a person and bleed them to let out the evil that was making them sick. Discovery is only possible when you step outside the accepted reality and you dare to look at things with an open mind. Remember, the impossible is only impossible until somebody does it. It was once impossible to run a mile in under 5 minutes. It was once impossible for mankind to fly. It was once impossible for man to leave the earth. All of these things are now not only possible, but they've been done many, many times. And some of them, such as flying, they're routine. They're done every day. The next argument is one that I have heard many, many times. And to be completely honest, it really annoys me. This argument states that all things paranormal are just superstitious nonsense by uncivilized savages way back in ancient times. That these people were obviously not as smart as we are, because now we have cell phones and the internet and jets. We have all this technology, and we are obviously intellectually superior to all those dumb people in the past. First, let's look at some of the things that these dumb savages, as you call them, accomplished. They somehow managed to build the pyramids, moving 100+ ton blocks of stone over 100 miles from a quarry to the build site where the pyramids actually are. They managed to cut those stones so precisely that they all fit exact measurements down to the millimeter. And they did so without leaving any markings that tell us how the hell they cut the stones. On top of that, they managed to lift these massive stones all the way up to the tops of the pyramids as they were being built. Now, none of these things can be accomplished today, not even with our technology. Hell, we can't even figure out how they did it. We have no idea how the pyramids were built. There's several different theories, but none of them have been proven. We have no idea how they do it. Now let's look at the pyramids themselves. They are placed in such a way as to exactly map out the stars, and for light to enter certain sections in different equinoxes. The level of understanding, not only of the constellations and the movement of stars, but the advanced mathematical calculations that are needed to accomplish something like this, are staggering. And to think that they accomplished this without the aid of calculators or computers to do those calculations for them, that sure doesn't sound like dumb savages to me. You find these pyramids and different large monoliths like this all over the world. Another aspect of this is the idea that somehow you are smarter than they are because of the technology that we all possess. Okay, you have a camera on your phone, and with that camera you can capture an image. But how many of you can explain how that camera works? What causes that image to be captured and for you to be able to look at and save and look at whenever you want? If there was some sort of mass extinction event that took place and only a few of us survived, and you were one of them, how many of you could get the phones working again? How about the electricity? Do any of you know how a power plant works or how to actually run one to get the power going again? We have airplanes that can soar through the skies, but how many of you even understand what makes a metal object that weighs over a ton be able to defy gravity and fly? How long do you think it would be after a mass extinction event before you were wandering around with a sharpened stick, just hoping to hunt something to eat? Because it would only be a matter of time before all the gas and all the ammo would be gone. Because without electricity, you can't pump the gas out of the ground. They may have giant tanks of gas underneath these filling stations, but how are you going to get it up? Without electricity, all the lights and the normal sounds of society would be gone. So it wouldn't take very long for the animals to retake the cities. Imagine wherever you live, walking down the street and having bear and mountain lions and things like that wandering around looking to eat you. Because that's what would take place. I would estimate that within 6 months or so, you would be living in fear, just struggling to survive. Every piece of technology that we have is made from natural resources. Somebody goes out there and mines the rock, cuts the lumber, does all these things that are the natural resources that make everything we have. How many of you actually know how to gather these materials from nature and turn them into any one of the hundreds of components that are needed to make even the simplest electronics? Not feeling so smart now, are you? The unpopular and painful truth of the matter is every society has a few very, very smart people. And these very, very smart people are able to figure some of this stuff out. And that makes it possible for everyone else in society to have an easier life. Because when it boils down to is that's what technology is. Technology gives you the ability to do things easier. Before washing machines, we used to have to use washboards and wash basins. And before that, we would have to go down to the river and beat our clothes on rocks to wash them up. Washing machines took all that away. What used to be an all-day chore is finished in an hour or two. And it requires almost no labor from you. Refrigerators enable you to store food that would ordinarily spoil. Before that, they had things called ice boxes. You'd have an ice man that would come with big blocks of ice and put it inside of basically a cabinet, and that would keep your food cold. Before that, you had ice houses where you would have giant blocks of ice inside of a building that would keep things cold. Up here in the mountains, we used to put stuff down in the creek because that water coming off the mountain was cold. So that would keep things cold. You could bury it underground because underground stayed a constant 50 degrees. So that would keep it cold enough to not spoil. You would salt meat. You would can things to preserve them. I would venture to say that the majority of people, unless you are a mountain person like me, you have no idea how to do any of that, do you? How many of you know how to hunt, clean, cut up, and preserve meat? How many people know how to can and do stuff like that like they used to back in the day? Probably not a lot of you. How many of you know how to actually dry meat over a fire to preserve it, to make your own jerky? I mean, these are a lot of these old skills that people just don't possess anymore. So if you do not have the technology anymore, how are you going to survive without those primitive skills? See, I always thought that was funny when they called them primitive skills anyway. As if they're primitive, as if somehow they are not as good as skills we have today. Those skills will keep you alive. I call them survival skills. That's what they are. The overwhelming majority of people have absolutely no idea how any of the technology they depend on works or how to make it. So without those few very smart people I was talking about, you're very quickly living the life of a caveman all over again. How do we know that the Revolutionary War happened? We know because people at the time thought that it was important enough to write it down and to pass it on to the next generation. The same can be said for pretty much everything we know about history. A lot of the knowledge that we have about the paranormal was gained the exact same way. Parents used to pass this information down to their children because it was important for them to know. The same way that we warn our children today about talking to strangers, they warned theirs of the very real dangers that were in their world. And some of those dangers were creatures that people nowadays believe are made up. Fairy tales. But my question to you is, how do you know? How do you know that for sure, that it's make-believe? Why do you think that you know better than the people that actually lived in that time period and actually faced those dangers? If it was all nonsense and make-believe, why would they warn their children about it? Why would they find that information was important enough to pass down to their kids? As any parent will tell you, you cannot give your child too many rules. If you try to fill their head with too many rules, most of it goes right back out again. They don't comprehend it. They don't remember it. They don't retain that much knowledge at one time. There's very limited space, so to speak, on what you can give your kid at a time to remember. So why would they waste that space on nonsense? Well, obviously the answer to that is it was not nonsense to them at the time. They didn't look at this and say, well, this is nonsense. This is stupid. It's make-believe. It's a fairy tale. They thought, this is important. I need to warn little Jimmy to watch out for this thing because it could kill him. So if they believed it was that important and they actually lived in that time, why would you think that you would know better? Just because you live in a time period with computers and airplanes and all that stuff, when you have no idea how any of that stuff works anyway. What gives you the intellectual superiority that you think that you have? I'm going to throw over to Old Boy, and I want to get his opinion on what I've said here tonight and see if he has any other arguments to make.
And thank you, brother. Here's something I'm going to say at the beginning of all this. Thank you for the note, Thomas. I really appreciate this because this is a good topic. No way of form do I fake what I am. This isn't a show. This isn't me doing stuff to make myself look like I know what I'm talking about or pretend to know what I'm talking about. Or we're faking this so people would like us and get an audience. So that right now could answer your question. Me and James do not lie about what we talk about. Yes, there is people who are going to argue and say, oh, well, you guys are fake or phony. You're lying, your imaginations. Half of these people don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even believe. Some of these people can't even deal with their own life. They don't even know what reality is. So, of course, they're going to say something because there's a lot of these people are know-it-alls or are unhappy in their own life. So, they never seen anything, so it doesn't exist. Just like James says, I haven't. Here's one. People say there's $1 billion. I've never seen it, but it's real. I've never seen it in my face, but I've seen it on TV. So people believe it's real, but they've never actually seen $1 billion ever. Majority of people haven't. So I've never seen certain animals and giant sharks. I've never seen a great white in real life. I've seen it on TV, but it exists. People are saying, well, they just put it on TV. So I guess the millions of people who have seen them and their legs bit off and attacked by them, those are fake too, right? But I've never seen a great white, but I know they exist. So to say things don't exist because you can't see them is ignorant. They said the world was flat, and it wasn't. But people thought it was. There's still people. No, let's not get this straight up. There's still people who believe the world is flat, and they're lying about the world being oval or circular. There's people who believe this. There's people who believe we never even went to the Mars. It was fake. Or not Mars, let me rephrase it. The moon. And fake that. Even Russia is saying we did. That no one's ever been to the moon. That's not true. I know that for fact because I hate to say this to bring this up. James worked for NASA for a while. He can't talk about it, but he knows it exists. He's seen stuff that we will never see. So I know it exists. People just don't want to believe in anything. They want to just believe that you live in this little world. Nothing else happens. Just whatever they see existed. There's people who said the giant sea turtle doesn't exist. I see it on Facebook. And they have videos of the thing. Oh, that's fake. They're Photoshop. It's the real thing. They really exist. So it wouldn't matter if I had a ghost or not. People are not going to believe it because they're either, one, afraid of it, and that's 90% of it, because that's what a lot of ignorance is in the world, is because they're afraid of it or don't know what it is. So assumingly it's evil or it doesn't exist. Just like there's no, I hate to say it, I don't believe in the same things James does. But that doesn't mean I don't respect what he believes. But mathematically, we're not the only people in this world, in all this in space. It's impossible to have all these planets and we're the only thing there. They're already proven that's true. That there's other things out there. I get irritated when people do that. Not irritated at you, Thomas. Thank you for the great question. No, we do not fake anything. Really, there's something that I do have with me. I do go to graveyards and fight things, and I have the Wraith. I just went again 2 days ago, a couple days ago, and we're going to have more evidence on that. And it even has the thing, it's with me, Shadow, next to me. When no one was around, they took it. I know people are, that, whatever. We do not Photoshop our pictures. They're all right then and there from my phone. People go, oh, yeah, it's a sign of light. It's not. When somebody's face comes out of you can't fake that. I'm sorry, I didn't Photoshop it. It would be a heck of a lot better picture if I did. A hell of a lot better. I'm sorry. I don't care what you believe. I understand people are not going to believe us. That's with any show, because there's a lot of paranormal shows out there and cryptozoology shows that are not telling the truth, or they exaggerate things on it because of Hollywood, or to get people to watch their shows. They put a show on. That's not us. We really deal with this stuff. I really believe 90% of what we talk about. Yeah, there's some stuff we don't always agree with. It exists, but 90% of this stuff exists. There is demons. There is ghosts. There are serpents in the ocean. There is werewolves. Maybe not the way you see it on Hollywood, because that's why you think it's not real, because Hollywood made it up. And that's where it came from. That's not. They got it from some story that was supposedly true. Most of this stuff came from real stories or lores. Yes, some of it was exaggerated or probably made up to scare people or scare children, but most of this is real. It's not a joke. Me and James aren't sitting here plotting the way to get listeners and we can make up things. We don't. We really do believe this stuff. And I'm sorry we scare you, but you know what? You're not the first person that said it. There's a couple people have said it. And I'm going to tell you about something that was said today. And somebody attacked James because of his beliefs. And I know sometimes we do get in biblical stuff, and I don't believe in it. I am a pagan. So I don't believe in everything that James said. I don't believe everybody's going to go to hell, but that's my opinion. He has his faith, and that's what he believes in. But somebody attacked James today and compared him to somebody who does nothing with the paranormal. I'm not going to bring up the name, or anything with cryptozoology. Or this person had to do with political stuff and conspiracies and right wing stuff on the far right wing. He has nothing. He's nothing like that, because he wouldn't be doing a show with me. Because I'm not like that. I'm not into the Christian faith like he is. Just because he doesn't get on me every day about my beliefs. And trust me, we've talked about it, but he's not that kind of person. So people know that, because somebody made a comment about our show, and that was today. Because we're actually doing this show earlier than we usually do, because this was an easy show to do. But I want people to know that. That's my choice, what I do in my life. And I have seen things, and you could think I'm crazy, that you would never believe and would never want to come after you, or be in your dreams, or torment you. You would never believe what I see every day and what I deal with every day. And same with James. He's seen things. He's dealt with things. He knows the Indian lore because he's got Indian in his blood. He's seen his family. His grandfather was into it. It was an Indian, and he went to tribal meetings and stuff like that. He knows what he's talking about with some of this stuff. He knows the lore. And sometimes he doesn't even want to do Indian lore because he doesn't want to disrespect the Indian culture, because some of it believe it's bad. It's bad karma if you talk about some of these things, like the skinwalker. And like I was trying to say, these things exist. These things exist. Maybe not everything, like they did on Creepypasta with Slender Man, but there's some truth to Slender Man. It's probably not exactly has a tie and a coat and has 8 arms or something, but there's something that is like that is real. They got it from some kind of lore. Yeah, it was made up, but the guy took it from some kind of lore. In the 1800s, there was truth to it. It even falls back to even farther than that. So what I'm saying is, when you say these things don't exist, they do. Some people just don't want to. I met people who just don't want to know about it. And that's fine. You don't have to know about it. But I know deep down inside, one time in your life, there's something you've happened to you where you can't explain it. And I know it's happened. People never will admit to it because they just don't want to tell the truth, or they're scared of the truth. But there is something in your life that has happened one day that you can't explain what that bump in the night was. You can make every excuse. Oh, it must have been, old wood, or a crickle in the wind, or shadow. Just my imagination. I was tired, just playing tricks on me. No, that was probably something watching you. Or people really know this exists and they just want to make a joke out of it because they don't want to believe it because they're scared of it. Because it might come after them one day. And most of the time it comes after people who don't believe in it. When you don't believe in something and you keep saying things like egging it on and basically poking a bear with a stick, you're going to get what you want. And you're not going to like it. You don't want some of this stuff to follow you home. It will destroy your life, your family. It doesn't have to kill you. You'll wish you were dead because it tortures you forever. And it even can get in your bloodline. It can follow you for the rest of your eternity, for your family. It can ruin their life. It can make them depressed where they do something stupid, dumb stuff, and it comes into like a curse. And you don't want that. This is not a joke. We're not just doing this show just to get people to listen to us. This is real. And you could say I'm crazy. I've gone into graveyards. I've seen stuff. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen doors open without no explanation. They just opened in front of me. There's 6, 7 people standing there. They're not all crazy or just making things up. Yes, don't get me wrong. Probably people do exaggerate things, but this is not a joke. We're not playing. James really had dealt with Bigfoot. He's seen it. People are going to say, oh, well, that wasn't Bigfoot. Well, James is 6'5", 6'6", and the thing was 3 times taller than him. It was almost big as this 12-foot tree. I can understand if it jumped a 7-foot fence like it was nothing. I've seen, to what I've seen, is supposedly, I don't know what it was, because where I live in the area where the chupacabra lives. This thing jumped a 7-foot fence in front of us and ran, hopped on 2 feet in front of us, and took off in the desert. I've seen him numerous times where I live, because there's an old Air Force base they used to do stuff at, and training, and experiments at. So, don't tell me I haven't seen anything. I'm not blind. I'm not crazy. I've been with people who never believe in this stuff and seen stuff. I've seen something that looked like a lion with a kangaroo's body run across with my friend's mom, who believes in God, saw it and couldn't believe it. She saw it with her own eyes too. There's 3 or 4 of us saw it. It exists. So there's stuff out there you're never going to know what it is. You're never going to be able to explain everything. And that's what it is. Everybody wants to explain everything and think they have an answer to everything. Does the Bible have 100% correct? No. There's stuff missing out of the Bible. There's stuff that's missing out of all religions. But most religions believe in a good and evil. Most religions believe that you can either go on the bad or the good side, or the left or the right. And most religions believe in ghosts and demons. Even pagans do. Muslims, Christians, Catholics, they all believe there's some kind of bad out there, or good. So when you argue us or want to fight with us and write stuff on Facebook, that's fine. You don't have to believe in anything. You don't have to listen to my show. Don't make a comment. It's ignorant. And about somebody that has nothing to do with paranormal or cryptozoology or history, because that's stupid. That was a dumb remark, and I blocked that person. So I wanted to throw that in. That was something different. But to your word, Thomas, no, we're not fake, and that should be scary, because the stuff that we're dealing with, most people don't want to deal with. Going in graveyards, there is a possible wraith that could kill us, and people, oh, you're crazy. Yeah, well, whatever you want to believe, that's fine. Don't believe it. Stay in your home. Be safe. Watch the news. It's a majority of lies anyway. I'm sorry, most newscast is all lies. 90% of it, 95%. I'm even giving a benefit of doubt on that. Or anything on TV. Everybody thinks because they see something on TV, it's real. You know what? That's the problem. You don't study things in real life. You don't go out and read. You don't really. You look on the internet. Well, look at whatever. You look it up on the internet and you think it's automatically real, or it doesn't exist because one person said this, or another did this study, or this college did this study, or did this poll. You guys should know after the elections, don't ever believe in polls again. So that's all I got to say. Yes, ghosts exist. Demons exist. Some of these creatures exist. And not all of them are from from the devil. Like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster. Those are just creatures that were made. But like I said, they exist. Go ahead, James.
We know that these things exist, some of them, because we have had personal dealings with some of these things. Not all of them. There are things that we talk about on this show that neither of us have ever seen before. We know the lore. We know about everything there is to know about the creature that we're talking about. But not every single one have we seen or dealt with, but some of them we have. We are actually out there hunting these things. I mean, we just did an investigation last week where we went after a wraith in his cemetery and we captured some amazing evidence, like photographic evidence. And we'll have EVPs coming soon. You can see it on the YouTube channel. So we actually do these things. We go out there and we try to find these things, and if possible, we take them out. Now, that does not mean that every single thing that we talk about on this show is going to be real. There have been episodes we've done where we have disproven things. That we've done the studying, we've done the work, and we see that it's not real. And we'll tell you it's not real. You're always going to get the truth from us. I have said before, and I will say again, I always go where the evidence leads me. I start out researching something, and I answer every question along the way, and wherever that evidence goes is where I go. And I present to you the findings. Now, what you believe is your own choice. You can either choose to listen to the evidence and agree with it, or you can listen to the evidence and choose not to agree with it. 100% your choice. I never tell you what to believe. Now, on the attack thing, I will go ahead and address that since Old Boy brought it up. I think it's kind of sad. When you have people that do not believe in God, some of them seem to really dislike Christians. The view that they have of Christians is that Christians are a group of people that judge you all the time. And there are some that do, and they shouldn't. That's not what we're called to do. But it's kind of sad that some of these same people that dislike Christians because they get judged by them will turn around and at the same time judge somebody else. Because that's basically what happened here. This guy doesn't like the fact that I was talking about stuff from the Bible. He listened to one of our shows. I think it was the Origin of Monsters show, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't like all the biblical references that was in it. If I am presenting evidence to you, I'm going to tell you the source. You know, if you're talking about demons and the origins of a lot of these things, you've got to go back to the beginning. You've got to go as far back as you possibly can. And you've got to talk about the source material. Now, not everything I do comes from the Bible. I've done stuff from the Book of Enoch. I've done stuff from different Sumerian texts and different Egyptian texts, and I tell you when I do it from something other than that. But you've got to mention the source. If you're talking about the Bible, I'm quoting directly from the Bible. I give you the verse, the chapter, everything, so you can look at it yourself and make up your own mind. Now, I can understand somebody being upset if you're preaching to them, but just the mere mention of the Bible and just quoting Scripture to provide evidence for the point that I'm making, I don't understand why that should offend somebody so much, why they should get so upset. I am a Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, that He died for my sins. That's my personal belief. But I don't get on here and preach to you guys. I don't. I simply present evidence. You would think that I would receive the same amount of respect that I give to the people that do not believe. Old Boy mentioned that he does not share my faith. That is absolutely true. Old Boy is a Wiccan and a pagan. And we have had many discussions about the Bible and about all these things. If I was what everybody thinks a Christian is, I would not do the show with him. It is not my place to judge anybody. My place is to love everybody. So, in answer to what has happened, and basically to break it down really quickly, the guy got upset that I was quoting from the Bible, and he equated me with Alex Jones, basically saying I was a conspiracy theory guy and some wackadoo. And there's absolutely no evidence to back that up. I am an international selling horror author. I've been on bestseller list. I have an IQ over a genius level. I was a member of Mensa. I worked for NASA. I am not a Looney Tune. I come to you every week and I present you with well-researched shows, all of which you can go and check for yourself. I have said many, many times, and I always say, don't take my word for something, look it up yourself. I'm telling you what I found. I'm telling you what the Lord says. I'm telling you what the evidence is, and I'm telling you where to find it. So you can go and check it on your own. So that's basically what happened. The guy said I was loony, basically. So my response to that, if he is listening, which I doubt he is, but if he is that's okay. I forgive you. I forgive you and I love you anyway. You can think whatever you want to think about me. That's fine. And to anybody listening, the same goes to every one of you as well. You can think whatever you like. I will not judge you. I will not be angry with you. I love you no matter what you think of me. And that's the truth. But the bottom line here is you can't get upset at Christians who are judging you if you're going to turn around and judge a Christian. And I really want you guys to listen to that and to think about that for a second. I am in enemy territory a lot of the time in my life. And I'll explain what I mean. I am a very strong Christian. My faith is very strong. My profession is I'm a horror author. That's what I do for a living. I write horror novels. Okay? Very, very, very scary books. 90 to 95% of my audience that buys my books and reads them are most likely not Christians. The majority of the people that buy my books do not share my faith. I also do a paranormal radio show. You are listening to it right now. And I would say a good majority of my audience probably does not share my faith either. I tell you that because I come to you every week to present this evidence, knowing that I am not surrounded by other Christians. But I have not one time ever on the air judged any of you. I have never said that you are wrong for what you believe or tried to shame you in any way. And I will, on the record right now, I will say to every one of you listening that any person that does that, any person who tells you that somehow you're a terrible person and all this, and that you're doomed for hell just because of what you do, they're not acting like a Christian either, because that's not what we're supposed to do. God is to judge, not us. We are to love. That's what we're called to do. Old boy brought up a story, I'm not going to get into particulars of it, before we went on air, where a guy was telling him that somebody was going to go to hell because they were gay. And like I explained to old boy, that's Old Testament. That is the law, the Ten Commandment law, the law of Moses. We are not bound by the law anymore. Sin is sin. I may be a strong Christian. I may have a strong Christian faith. I am saved. But I am no better than old boy. I am no better than that guy who attacked me and who said a bunch of really vile things about me. I am no better than that guy. I am a sinner just like he is. I'm only forgiven. I think we all should just love each other. You don't have to believe what I believe. That's okay. It's your life. You have free will. It is your choice what you believe. I only ask that I be given that same choice and that same respect. And the overwhelming majority of the audience is very, very cool. The overwhelming majority, and I mean 99.9%, of all the emails I get and all the messages and comments are full of love and support. But every once in a while, you have somebody that just wants to attack you, just wants to scream and holler and go nuts. And that's okay. I'm not offended. I'm not hurt in any way. I love the person that attacked me, and I will pray for them. It doesn't matter to me if they're mad at me or hate me or whatever. I love you guys anyway. That's about all I have to say about it, old boy.
Well, we're about to run out of time, brother. So I'm going to give out some shout outs. Thank you for Thomas for sending us this letter. I really like doing the show, and I actually did this show earlier than we usually do because it was very easy. And I got to rant for a while, and I actually talked for longer than I usually do. But thank you guys. Always check us out on James Hershey Jr.'s YouTube page. If you missed the show, you want to rehear it, or all our other shows, so we can get more subscribers. We're almost at 3,500. It always goes slow sometimes, and we'll jump up 1,000. It's real weird. But it happens. But if you guys want to listen, check out James Hershey Jr.'s page. Check us out on ParaX or TuneIn or check out their affiliates. They'll have a list of other things they other places you can. I know TuneIn's one of them. Also, we have the merch shop. He'll tell you what you can get there, or shirts and all kinds of different other stuff. If you guys have a request of something or we do business, we can actually make you shirts. And we could probably give you a really good deal, just so you guys know that, or any kind of merchandise you would interested in. Or if you want to sponsor us or anything, let us know. I love you guys. I love these kind of questions. I love these kind of shows because I get to talk finally about stuff I really know about. And this stuff I really know about, and that's why I do this show, because I love it and I believe most of the stuff exists. But I also want to give a shout out to Christopher Reyes. He writes the books in his name. He's going to have a new book coming out, so you guys check that out. Everybody have a great night. Demon Hunters, Sugar Ladies, and Misfits, I love you. And blessed be, and have a great night.
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's Teespring, TEESPRING.com/stores with an S on the end /staring into the abyss. That's where you can find all the staring merch. We've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, tank tops, mugs, posters, iPhone cases, all kinds of stuff. So if you're into merch and that's something that you are interested in and that you're looking for, that's where you can find it. Thank you guys for all the love and support that you give us. I know this was kind of a rant show a little bit, but I just want to reiterate that the overwhelming majority of you are amazing and awesome, and the support and the love that we get on a daily basis from you guys is, frankly, probably more than we deserve. And I greatly, greatly appreciate every one of you. And I even appreciate the people that don't agree, because it gave us a topic to do a show. And I think that on this show there's some things that needed to be addressed. And I took the opportunity, instead of getting upset and screaming and hollering and calling the person names or whatever, I took the opportunity instead to try to address some of the questions and some of the arguments that the people that do not believe in the paranormal always make. So hopefully this has answered some questions for you guys. If you are dealing with somebody and you are a paranormal investigator, or you're just into the paranormal, if you're listening to the show, you probably are, and you're dealing with somebody who's a skeptic and they use one of these arguments on you, now you can kind of answer it. I've given you some information you can use to answer it. So thanks again for all the support and all the love. We greatly appreciate you guys. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you. and so do we. Bye-bye.